Welcome to the another webinar by Ekincare. This is Trilok, and we also have Sharad, who is the VP and CHRO at Iris Software. Sharad, can you just give a little bit of an introduction about yourself?
Hi, very excited to be on this show. Thanks, Trilok. Thanks, Shashi. So I have basically I'm an HR professional with about 28 years of experience, and in the current new normal, this is a very apt topic where how do we care for our employees? I think that's our number one priority right now. How do we provide services? How do we provide care? How do we extend healthcare in a remote model? And so very excited to be on this program and would be looking ahead to questions and interactions.
Great. Thanks, Sharad, for that. And yeah, the topic is building a pandemic-proof employee well-being strategy. We'll just give a couple of minutes for the other people also to join in. We had around 150, 200 odd registrants. We'll wait for a couple of more minutes for more people to join in, and we'll then get started.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Hey, good evening, Zubair. Good evening, Anand. Thanks for joining in. We'll give a minute more and then we'll get started. I'm just trying to pull up the slide deck as well in parallel so that we'll be able to. Hi Rajaram, thanks for joining in. Okay, so we are 4 minutes down the clock, but we'll get started. So yes, building a pandemic-proof employee well-being strategy. It's been about almost 5.5 months that we have all gone down towards the new normal with COVID-19 impacting all of us. The numbers are increasing on a drastic pace on a regular basis. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel with news around cures, vaccinations, medications, and other things coming in. But we are getting used to the fact that COVID is going to be here at least for 1 or 2 quarters more, and every organization is trying to align ourselves to the new ways of working. And there's been a lot of implications because of this on business and employee relations as well. There are many organizations which are resizing, relooking at their entire workplace with work from home being the new normal. And this has brought in a lot of changes in the work life in the work side of the life as well for every employee. So Sharad, while yes, there are a few numbers that are mentioned here, any key insights that you have seen from your vantage point from the HR head position?
Yeah, I think these numbers are they indicate the trend in the last few months. Firstly, obviously, this is a completely unprecedented situation, right? Nobody saw it coming in this way. Although I've been part of some workshops where we simulated what would happen if there was a global pandemic situation,
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of steps would you take in different stages of seriousness. But they were more theoretical. No one ever thought that we would actually face something like this, right? So I think in the last 5 months, the emotions themselves have gone through different cycles, right? In the beginning,
Yeah.
there was anxiety, there was lack of information. People wanted to know what is happening and all that. Then, as we went about it, there was caution. People try to adapt and all that. And now we are kind of getting used to, okay, this is the new normal. What does it mean for us? How do we keep ourselves up and going? We still have to face life.
Yeah.
So I think those range of emotions have taken place. And from a business perspective, it has meant, continuously keeping in touch with your employees, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody is working remotely. After some point, people decided to go to their hometowns and things like that.
Yeah.
So still the normal life has to go on, and yet we have to be a caring employer. So what I see, 40% of employees face high levels of anxiety, 50% face motivational issues. I think directionally they are, I would agree with those. We have
Mm-hmm.
faced motivational issues, we have faced stress, the work and personal life have got completely intermingled. And we
Yeah.
have never had to resolve it in that at that scale, in that manner. you know so yes, I think employee well-being has kind of floated to the top of the number of issues that you deal with as a company.
True. It used to be more as a tick mark or one of the set of services or benefits that were being provided to the employees. But because of the pandemic, it has brought all of the health benefit side, specifically the well-being part of it, to the forefront across all the organizations, and especially around the mental health issues. These are some statistics that we have, as per the ASOCAM report on the mental well-being. 1 in 2 employees suffer from general anxiety and depression. 150 million people in India suffer from some or the other kind of mental health issues. About $1 trillion is lost due to anxiety, which is causing low productivity among employees. And one of the very in at Econ Care, we are doing EAP services where we provide counselors 24 by 7 on the platform. When we were bringing this into picture, we set up something called a stress questionnaire on the platform where the people could answer a couple of questions to understand where do they position themselves, where are they placed on the stress curve. And it was interesting to note that people don't the bigger problem than solving a mental health issue is the fact that people are not able to identify that they're feeling anxious, they're feeling depressed. And that, I think, is one of the key issues which as an HR is able to solve right now. Do you have similar thoughts as well, Sharon?
Absolutely. I think, see, firstly, it's like amateur psychology, right? Or pop
Mm,
psychology, that you don't know what is a bad mood, what is a temperament,
correct.
what is there are some people who normally behave like that. They are more difficult to deal with, versus what is depression, what is versus, when do you seek medical help? Do you
Yeah.
need to talk to somebody? And for a long time in business, some of these behavior characteristics were even seen as plus points. They were seen
Hmm.
like, how, so in normal interview question is like, how do you perform under pressure, right? How will
Right.
you deal with criticism? How will you deal with people who are highly competitive? So you want
Hmm.
people to be competitive, you people want people to be driven, you want people to be aggressive, you people hire aggressive people rather than passive, etc.
Right.
So but now I think we have started to recognize that some of these are not positive behavioral patterns, or they are not positive syndromes, basically,
Hmm.
right? When, especially when taken beyond a point, they become toxic. They create toxic
Right.
environments. They impact your relationships. They impact your productivity. And if you are in that state for a long time, So basically, the way I look at it, and including from a spiritual Indian perspective, if you
Mm-hmm.
are if you are dealing with too much of negative emotions, and you find yourself angry all the time, you find yourself
Right.
resentful, you find yourself upset about things, you are irritable,
Mm.
you dislike everybody and everything. If one of your colleagues shows you an output, you jump on them, start criticizing them. I
Yeah.
think we need to self reflect that what
True.
amount of negative emotions are healthy and what are not. And then but I think what you said is very important, in the sense that we need to recognize it, and we need to
Mm.
have a safe environment where we can talk to somebody about it, or
True.
even one of our colleagues can tell us, hey, this is not doesn't look healthy. Are you stressed? What's
Mm-hmm.
happening to you? Because I see that you are criticizing everybody. So I think that environment needs to be created. It's very important, I
Correct.
think. Yeah.
True. Makes sense. Makes sense. Understood. So, moving on to the next part of the conversation here, Sharad, Econcare had done a survey amongst around 120 odd organizations to understand the impact on the well-being programs or the health benefits that are being provided to to their employees. And around 50% of them responded that they had a little bit of a help from their existing health benefit programs. But it is little bit of a concerning fact that almost 46% of them did not know or felt that it could have been done better. And almost 83% of them feel that they need to reevaluate their entire employee wellness strategy in the post-COVID times. And this brings in the question to you, Sharad, about what I would like you to just quickly give us a summary of what you saw at your previous organizations and even your present organization around well-being strategy for the employees. What were some of the activities that you used to do, and how did that help or did not help during the COVID time period?
Right. So I agree with the observation, and I will make a slightly bold statement. I think
Mm-hmm.
is that it has never been thought of in this manner, right? We
Right.
it's the whole healthcare aspect of the employee requires disruption in the way that we think about it. It requires innovation. It requires new
Mm.
thought process, new models. Because traditionally, even if you see the healthcare system itself, the larger healthcare system, I would say
Right.
it's broken. I mean, it may be a stronger word to use, but uh, the reason why I say that is it is highly reactive, and it
Correct.
is highly like when you go into an emergency state, you are not functional anymore, then we think of doctors, then we think of medicine, and then we think of what's going wrong. So
True.
traditionally we have been wired to do that. From an organizational state, we have more been check in the box. Do we have an
Mm.
insurance agency? Are we appropriately covered? When we hire people, then people ask us questions, okay, what is the insurance cover going to be? And then
Right.
every
True.
year we negotiate with them that how can the premiums come down because it's becoming expensive for us. I think these
Mm.
are all reactive mechanisms, very basic, not really looking and caring at an employee that do we have a healthy work environment? Do we How is it impacting productivity and therefore return on investment, therefore the company's outputs? I mean, there is a linkage
Right.
between employee health and overall performance of the company, right? So I think we are just scratching the surface. I think
Mhm.
that's where companies like Econ Care and the new business models and all that come in, which is more holistic, more proactive, more complete,
Yeah.
more safe environment for all these kind of conversations to happen.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. You spoke about being reactive, the healthcare system and the well-being of what organizations have being very reactive in nature, and that is so true, right? Insurance kicks in only when a person is so unwell that he has to actually go and get admitted in a hospital.
Correct.
And what about the general times? The normal mentality of a normal Indian human, Indian person is that he or she does not think about going to a doctor until and unless they are unable to get out of the bed in the morning to go to the office.
Absolutely.
And by that time, majority of the times it's too late already, right? And
That's
we
right.
tend to hit up Google for any kind of health, or we might just there is this dangerous trend of even self medication as well, which comes into picture,
Yes.
where just because I have a fever, I take a crocin and get on with my life. And these are the places where, as you rightly mentioned, a proactive approach on the well-being is something that is going to be very helpful.
That's right. And see, there are many doctors in my family, and then sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's like a conversation with them that what's the problem. So they say like the patient comes for the first visit, they take the medicine, and then they never come back. And so, is it a good sign or a bad sign? They say it's a good sign because the person must have got well, so they never came back. So
Hmm.
it's only like we are looking for fixes. Today I have fever, pop a pill, and then I'm okay. But so I
Correct,
think even that well-being concept itself is not there in our. I mean, it needs to be understood more completely.
correct. So this slide basically talks about what a lot of these organizations are doing post lockdown. So it's very interesting to see that I'll go back to a point that you mentioned, right, about the different modes that came in during the COVID time period and how organizations were initially anxious, people were anxious, moved on to understanding what it is all about and ensuring now it is becoming the new normal. And this is kind of shown during in this graph itself. So if you see, we started with providing telemedicine to all the employees, providing mental wellness services to all the employees. There was a lot of communication around COVID-19. What are the precautions to be taken care of? What type of preventive measures to be done? A lot of protective equipment like gloves, masks, and all the paraphernalia were being provided to the employees. An interesting part was around where the sick leave policy and other things were also impacted. So, any insight in that area, Sharath, which you might have seen at your organization or at some of your
Yeah.
peers?
So in my organization, yes, we have, for example, we took a COVID specific insurance policy. We
Mm-hmm.
tied up with a couple of providers who give you services during if you're in quarantine or if you're in self
Mm-hmm.
isolation, then they kind of manage your health. And the sick leave policy, we introduced a new policy, and then it's a very employee friendly policy in line with the
Yeah.
times that so should you fall sick and then if you require leave, then we are pretty lenient about that. So
Right.
yes, I think overall this slide does represent the trends. And again, it say like communication about COVID-19 is obviously the need of the hour, and it's like more about alarming situation, and therefore, so whenever an alarming situation happens, especially nowadays with social media,
Mm,
TV, etc., you have an overflow of information. So I think this
correct.
was this is how we adapted, but then yeah, we have to do more
Mm.
fundamental things as well. I think as a society and an ecosystem.
True. An interesting point is around the online employee engagement bit. In the past, we used to do a lot of on-site activities for the employees at organizations, which included fitness activities,
Correct.
events, games, and various things. And now all of that has been shifted to an online model where live sessions are being conducted by a trainee through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or YouTube and various things. How do you think has been the perception by the employees and the organizations in general for activities like that?
See, I think this is more need driven because you are confined
Hmm.
and therefore there's no other way. And quickly organizations have adapted to doing online. So if your graph says online employee engagement, which is a wider term, it's not just well-being.
Hmm.
It's more about it could be even group connects, it could be watch parties, it could be
Right.
award celebrations and things like that over Zoom and other remote connection things.
Yeah.
um, I think it's see we I think we have not fully understood the implications of this, because
Mm-hmm.
when you connect with people in person, when you go to the office, when you meet your friends, so there are surveys which tell you that the most engaged employees are people who have three good friends or four good friends at workplace. So you
Mm-hmm.
spend majority of your waking hours at work. Your Some of your very close relationships are with your colleagues. They understand you much better just because of the time that you have spent. So when you shift the model from physical to online, what are the implications? I think we have no. It will take us time before we can even understand that fully, right? I think
Right. Right.
it's a human need to meet people, make eye contact, shake
Mm-hmm.
hands, laugh together, share things. So you are not doing. Online is a kind of a substitute. How effective it
Right.
is, we have to find out. I think we are adapting fast, but we really don't know how what are the real implications. And I think in some
True.
ways it is increasing the stress. See, I personally
Mm.
think that technology increases stress to some extent. you know your Zoom is not working, your voice sound is so. I saw this on social media. The most
Yeah.
popular statement of 2020 is you are on mute. So most frequent, you are on mute, or can you repeat that please, or and sometimes people say that, like, I can't hear you, so the person can't do anything
Yeah.
about it, and they just say, now is it better? And then suddenly it seems to you that this is better now, so you say, yeah, that is better, but actually nothing changed. So
Right.
yeah, so technology itself creates stress. We are not really natural at that medium. We are not natural at
Mm-hmm.
on video. We are not natural on connecting with people like that. I think this will require, and the habits. You mentioned like online fitness programs and all that.
Yeah.
It requires a habit change, right? So which does not happen overnight. Even if you can have excellent programs, online yoga. So
Mm-hmm.
now there are apps which teach you yoga and all those things, and YouTube and stuff like. So there's plethora of information which is available. The more important
Right.
thing is, if you don't have the habits around it, then you can't even use the information, right? Watching
True.
a YouTube video is different from watching it and then doing the exercise. I mean, that requires
I get
more
it. Yeah.
effort. And in
True.
some
True.
ways,
True.
this being online all the time is actually making you very passive. So you are passively
Mm.
consuming, you're consuming information, you're consuming social media, you're consuming YouTube videos, video after video after video. So that's doing something to
Right.
your health. It's doing
Correct.
something to
Correct.
your mental
Correct.
health. It's doing, you are not physically active anymore, right? So
Mm.
it has deep implications, I think, which we have to understand. With time only we can understand.
True, true. When you mentioned about we as human beings naturally tend to connect with people, brings back to me thoughts about the conversation that we were having at one of our previous webinars. Shout out to Priyambi at Times Internet. She had mentioned a term called social well-being. Is a new concept that has come in because people are now working at home, not used to not having that regular interaction at offices, and how do we take care of that as well comes under well-being was something that she was mentioning. So it was a very interesting conversation that time.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So moving on, Sharad. So what I would like to do right now is pick up a couple of different aspects of well-being, which would form the core components of a health benefit strategy. Look at what are the components of it that are must have in an organization and what are good to have. And I would like to have your views in terms of does it resonate with the HR audience? What would their thought process be around this? And then we can take up questions as well in parallel along with this.
Sure.
Yeah. So the first aspect foremost comes around the physical health part, where it takes care of anything and everything related to the human body, starting from doctor consultations to medicines, nutrition, the food that we eat, and physical fitness. So what Econ Care, or what we believe that a must have for an organization should be 24 by 7 instant doctor access, because since employees are now working at home, they don't have access to doctors or the nearby clinics, and they're not supposed to be venturing out right now. So doing all of this online is the best possible solution right now.
Sure.
Along with this comes the additional services like medicine delivery, additional other discounted services like health checkups or vaccinations and other things as well. So, any aspects around this that you feel was covered in the past, or do you think they need to be focused on in the post-pandemic lifestyle?
No, I think this is on a, this is comprehensive, and I think this will be required on an online basis, right? I would think that in terms of trends, health coach
Right.
programs have will move to must have. Nutrition
Mm-hmm.
services will so more of your good to have will eventually move to must have. Your health coach,
Got
your
it.
nutrition, your fitness sessions,
Mm-hmm.
these will become must have, because that's how you can become proactive about it, that's how you can become preventive about your health. Of
True.
course, responding to emergency situations, I mean, you have to do that, there's no other alternative, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
must have. But the preventive, the proactive, and the awareness, and then the total health, your sleep
Right.
pattern, your nutrition, your exercise, your mental health,
Mm.
your emotional health, your social well-being. I think that's the holistic and complete health concept. It will eventually come towards must have. That's my comment on this.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And what at Econ Care, what we normally do is any health benefit that are being provided for the organization at the employee level, we allow that employee to add up to 5 dependents, 5 family members, and
Sure.
share the benefits with them as well. And we have
So
seen that
that's
on an
great.
average, yeah,
That's great because
on an average, we have seen an employee who is active on the platform adds up to 3 dependents across their family, and they are also able to take care of their dependents as well on the platform also.
sure.
Moving on to mental health, Sharad, I know this topic is close to your heart, so I would like you to touch upon, while what is mentioned on the slide is pretty self-evident, but I would also like to have your thoughts around this also.
Yeah, so it's the same thing that I mentioned earlier. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the total health concept, which is your sleep pattern, nutrition, exercise, social interaction, your spiritual well-being. So there is this study which is called blue zones. So blue
Okay.
zones are areas in the world where people normally live for 100 years. And this study
Mm-hmm.
was done by a new National Geographic researcher to what is unique about people who live in these areas, and
Mm-hmm.
about their food patterns, their daily lifestyle, and all that. So they found that they're very active. They live in communities. They have a strong spiritual quotient. They have specific food habits, and I think all of that together kind of impacts your overall health. On also,
Right.
the body mind connection has to be understood. The body and the mind are not separate. The state of your body impacts your mind. The state of your impact mind impacts your body. So if
Right.
you're not, if you are not feeling up to something, if your body is not feeling up to something, it will impact your mental health. And if
Mm-hmm.
mentally you are not sound, it will impact your body. So body and mind are, they are one system, they are not separate. That's a very
Right.
important point to be understood. I think you have
Very true.
some questions. You want to take those, or will?
Yes, yes. Give me a second. I'll
Okay,
just go back to
sure,
the screen.
sure.
Yes, while we go back, before we go back to the deck, there are a couple of questions. Rajaram has asked, don't you think that organizations should have consistent awareness programs on wellness of employees? Sharad, do you want to pick it up or do you want me to
Yeah,
answer this?
I think the answer is obviously yes.
Yes.
And basically the challenge is, or the ask is to have qualified people. People who are, like in the previous slide you had. qualified doctors on call, nutritionists,
Mm-hmm.
health coaches, so because this is not just like somebody start lecturing you about health, right? The people need the qualification, they need the science, they need the evidence backed kind of knowledge, right?
True.
So you do require consistent awareness program on wellness, and the implications of doing something versus not doing something in the long run, and
Right.
by qualified people. I think very important, by doctors getting more involved. So that's very important.
True. Adding on to that same point, awareness about well-being and wellness is a point you already covered that. The second thing that we believe is that well-being or wellness should be an year-long activity or year-long engagement that goes on with the employees. It is not a flash in the pan kind of an event where you do a couple of events, you do a couple of on-site engagement activities, you get a specialist to come and talk about it, but then it has to happen regularly again and again to reinforce the thought process and bring in that as part of the culture of the organization and shouldn't be left for the individuals to decide by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, see, it requires a change in our thinking process. It requires a change in
Yeah.
our habits, and that therefore it has to be long term. Also, because it is preventive and proactive, which you are talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
it has to be ongoing, without a doubt. Because one time is an emergency intervention, right? That's when you fall sick, you go to a doctor and you take medicine. But
Right.
if you care about your health, then you have to do certain things on a daily basis. They have to become a part of your daily routine, and so obviously, without a doubt, it has to be ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah, true. And the next question is by Dr. Deepak Deshpande. He's asking, how effective are the online engagement tools? Do we have any industry benchmarks?
So it depends on like how will you measure effectiveness, right? So if you see effectiveness in terms of business measures, so if you have like either like suppose you say effectiveness by employee retention or effectiveness by productivity. So do you measure it by business measures, or do you measure it by employee satisfaction scores? Do you
Right.
measure it by or you do like a quick poll at the end of that event? You ask people how happy you are on a 5 point Uber like scale. Are you happy with it or not? So it really depends on how you measure effectiveness. You might get those pop quizzes, you might get good scores. For example, we had a stand-up comedian who came and he addressed all our employees, and people were quite happy with that at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
How effective it is in the long run, we still have to evolve a model for measurement, that how
Mm-hmm.
uh, how does it actually impact the health and the well-being of the employees. But in terms of a feel good thing, it was a good thing and people
Right.
loved, so.
Understood. Uh, Dr. Deepak, just to add on to the question, the answer that Sharad already gave, while Ekincare is not, we don't consider ourselves as an employee engagement organization or employee engagement product. In the health side of it, whenever we are organizing such events or activities for our clients, we usually look at it as the first metric is what Sharad already mentioned. It is about the number of people who participated in the event, what was the overall thought process post the event, did they like it, did they not like it. That is obviously the first set of metrics to measure it. The second set that we use is something what we call as the health score. So similar to how CIBIL score measures the financial wellness of an individual, on the eKinCare platform, we have something called as a health score, which is generated for every individual out of 1,000. We accumulate that for an organization and look at the increment in those scores. So when we are doing, let's say, a campaign around heart health, because an organization has got a higher tendency for towards higher propensity towards a heart health issue or diabetes issues, we always go back and check against the health score of that entire organization as a cumulative amongst all the employees. And that gives us the true north towards, are we improving the health of that entire organization, the entire employees as a population or not, is something that we always measure. Hope that answers your question, Dr. Deepak. Yeah. I'll just check if there are any other questions yet. Yes. So I think we can go back to the conversation that we are having right now around mental health was something that we discussed. An interesting activity here was that we have seen at a couple of our clients, Sharad, is something what we call it as a cool down event or cool down activity, which primarily helps the employees get out of their work mindset, as we like to call it. So these are activities which could include, let's say, a fitness session or live Zumba activity in the evening. So this is usually comes in the time trying to recuperate the same idea of people getting back to home from their work when they're driving down, when they're traveling. They have that time to wind down their work mind and bring up their home mind. So these are something very interesting that we saw at some of our clients.
Yeah, I think see that's the need of the hour because work and home life they're intermingled, right? So they're basically you are never switching off. That's the problem
Correct.
because the more I talk to other employees, I talk to my friends, and they are always working now. The
Yeah.
work has consumed the commute time, the work has commute, the entertainment. But earlier we used to take a break, go down, have a cup of coffee or a smoke, talk to somebody, those kind of things, or you walk from one place in your building to the other place. Now you are not doing any of those things, right? And
Yeah.
work is consuming all aspects of it. So the switch off is very important. You have to,
Correct.
your brain has to come back to, it has to find that break during the day, so that's very important.
True. There were a couple of other questions as well which came in before the event. We'll cover them also once we're nearing the end of the set of information that we had to put across. The final aspect that we wanted to touch about, Sharath, was around the other things beyond physical and mental health, which includes financial wellness, social wellness, and others. So some of the must-haves here are financial planning sessions, which we have helped organize at some of our clients. While there is the thought process which says that you can take the horse to the water, but not actually force them to drink it, but ensuring that they have all this information is something which is important. Any
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
there?
see that is true for all habit formation activities. It is true for example, with training. So you can give people excellent concepts. You can make them participate in those experiences and those games. But then, what do they take away, and what do they practice is up to them, right? So people have
Right.
to ultimately. You are responsible for your health, and when we take that ownership, only then we, and for many people, unfortunately, it's a wake up call when the body, something wrong happens in the body, and then it gives you a wake up call that you have not been doing exercise, or you have been eating wrong, etc., and it's late then. So
Right.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, ultimately it's up to the individual, but I think the awareness helps. The more awareness you have, if you are not aware, then you sometimes you can get a wake up call from somebody else and not just by yourself, right? So
Right.
so awareness actually fuels action. I mean, it can, at least it makes the actionable information available to you.
Hmm. We have a point by Mr. Ashish Gakre who says, don't you think that too much hype being created about well-being? Nothing much is being changed except people work from home and or some layoff happening, which anyway used to happen in the past as well.
So yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say whether see there are some things have changed, right? Some things are real. So for example, the amount of activity that you used to do during the day has come down because you are in a confined space. So
Right.
that's not a hype, that's real. The impact that has on your health is something that one needs to understand, right? If I did not have data before, how many calories I was burning, how many calories I was eating, was I eating more proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins,
Yeah.
what, minerals? So if I have no information, then there is no change for me because I did not have the before after scenario. If I do have information that I was running 10 kilometers every day on average, I was walking 10,000 steps, I was consuming 600 calories, I was burning 600 calories, I was eating this much. But now, because of being confined, I am only burning 200 calories, I'm only walking 2,000 steps, I'm eating so much. Then you are
Yeah.
aware and you know that it's impacting your health. If you do not have data, then you don't know. So it is hype, but it's people are talking about it more without a doubt. But then they're talking about it more because even the situation has changed. We have to
Yeah.
admit that situation. There's a real change which has happened. And Dr. Deepak Deshpande is saying, well, lip service is always easy and comes free. The real challenge is for companies to walk extra mile to demonstrate this in visible action. I agree with that. I
Yes.
do find, at least in the organization in which I work, I think, the leadership and the promoters of the company, uh, for them, the topmost concern right now is employee health. I mean, and it's not about employee health because of profits or employee health because of productivity or employee health because of something else. It is just an unprecedented situation which requires you, shows that what kind of an employer you are. And so while there is lip service, while there is hype, I also think there is real change. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, and adding on, very true, Sharad. Adding on to what you said, I think yes, the issue was there before as well. When we're seeing that nothing much has changed, the real health issues people facing, the health requirement from the employee side was always there. It was not brought into the forefront in the past. It came front because of the health related pandemic that came in, and it has brought the entire issue to the forefront, because of which there is a lot of conversation and lot of information that is coming in right now. And that is why I think the conversation is going around this now. And yes, there are many organizations that are actually showing that they care for their employees. There is a lot of requirement as well around well-being requirements which come in across all corporations, multiple stuff, everything starting from solving the issues right now, which includes doing COVID-related testing, providing healthcare professionals at office locations to take care of the employees, and go towards the long-term solutions as well, where they are looking to ensure the employee well-being for in the long run as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
There was a question that came in from Swati Emani, which said,
Okay.
given the COVID situation, it is time to think other than traditional well-being policies. What are some unconventional interventions which can be implemented, which also link to employee engagement?
See, there some of these you mentioned, right? The switch off session, the Zumba in
Right.
the evening, etc. Right? So I think those are important. Laughter is important. You have to reduce the stress level. So it's not just some of the comments which I see about hype, etc. And looking at hearing so much on well-beings, good guys and girls will also start feeling I'm not well. So see, there is science behind it. We have to understand
Yeah.
that everything we talk is not talk. At the end of it, there's science, there is research. So if you are confined in a particular state, if you are undergoing stress, if you have not slept enough, there are changes which happen in your body.
Yeah.
There are hormones which lock up your body, like the stress hormone, for example. It's a hormone. So, and it is actually So I think it's a real thing, and it's not like good guys and girls. I mean, it's not a static thing. You have to care about your health every day.
Yeah,
It's not like you are healthy and you will be always healthy, right? So if you care about your health only, then you will stay healthy. So more unconventional thing, like the stand-up comedian show we did, we wanted to break up that monotony and the stress.
hmm,
You can do watch parties. I think watch parties are very popular among millennials. So they all come together, they eat, they watch a movie together, they are talking at the same time, and they are chatting and they are laughing. So it almost feels like a real party. So
right,
so actually the technology is giving you new possibilities as well. You can have health related contests, which is there in our company also.
true.
How many miles people walk, and then they share that. You have even have online platforms where people can get into contests or challenges, how many
Hmm,
miles you walk, etc. And I think that has a positive impact, because if you are confined only in your home, or you can't go out freely everywhere, you have to get motivated to exercise. I mean, earlier
true.
you could so when you see other people doing it, or when you do it as a group, then you feel like doing it, right? You have these online laughter clubs, for example. So you can
Yeah,
come together at say 7 a.m. and just have a joke. It's not about work. It's just for example, there's science which says that eating together has
right,
positive impact, right, on your. But now
right.
you can't eat together because everything is online. So maybe you can have a virtual lunch party. So like with my team, we
Yeah,
have online virtual pizza lunches once in 2 weeks. So the team comes together, we have a pizza lunch, we talk about
nice.
how things are going and all that. So I think we have to do something extra in this environment. And we do have to do a lot of unconventional things, the things that we never thought we would be doing. So yes, it's that's
Right.
kind of a situation.
True. That kind of segues into the next question that has come from Mr. Ponniyin Selvan. He asks, do we need to follow separate well-being programs for different type of people?
Great question. Yes, my answer is yes. So, for example, in our company, we introduced recently. It's a small program, but we introduced a returning mothers program. So, when people are coming back from their maternity leave, we have a program for them where they are welcomed. They have there are certain support programs which are available. There are some socialization programs which are available. So it's a well thought out 4 5. So depending on the demographic, depending on the needs, you can have different well-being programs. If we have in the same organization many different generations that are working,
Right,
you have millennials, you have people in their 40s, you have people in their 50s, and they all have different health needs, right? Then you have see today we I also think that, and another accentuated by the pandemic, but very important, is we should not be thinking only about the employee. We should be thinking about the employee's family, right?
true.
Because say, you are working from home and you are a part of your family. So in a way, your family is now part of the employer family, right? So you may have different programs for parents, for example, or you may have different
Right,
programs for children. So that's a great question. I think we have to think like that. What are the different needs of a person, and how does the employer focus on those needs
right.
depending on the
Uh,
demographic?
Correct. When you mentioned demographics, we at Ekincare internally we function almost like a B2C organization when we are treating when we are working with, when we are providing the benefits to the end users that are the employees. We have a very interesting kind of segmentation of our audience that we do. We call them as the first segment is what we call as the invincibles. These are the younger crowd who do not have people in less than 30 years of age. They might have never met a doctor in the last 6 months. Their general thought process is मैं मुझे कुछ नहीं हो सकता,
Correct.
and they are more into fitness activities. They know exactly how many calories they eat. They are very much into fitness. They do Zumba, they hit the gym regularly, and all of that stuff. For them, they are more interested in engagement related stuff. They are more interested in fitness activities. Versus the second segment is what we call it as the first responders. These are people in early 30s, late 30s, early 40s, whom we call as the first responders. They are people who are married, have a kid. They might have seen a health attack in some of their near and dear ones, an uncle who is diabetic, or parents who have had a major health scare, and their general
Sure.
thought process is, oh, what if something happens to me?
Correct.
They have a doctor on their speed dial. They are interested in annual health checkups. They are interested in ordering medications for their dependents, taking care of their own health. Some of them may be pre-diabetic as well. So their health requirements are very different. And the
Sure.
final segment is what we call as the chronic guys. These are guys who are already have a chronic health issue, usually late 40s, early 50s. They know that they're diabetic, they know that they have hypertension, and their main concern is to manage that health issue.
Sure.
And how each and every segment defines health and well-being for themselves is very different. And
Correct.
that is
Absolutely.
where organizations are moving towards a flexi benefit kind of a policy, where every individual has a fixed amount or a budget or a wallet of benefits available for them, and they are free to spend it across different services, whatever they want to do and whatever they feel is required for them. And that trend, what I see, is picking up in the because of the pandemic as well, where the budgets are being constrained at an organization level, but the benefits that need to be given to the employees need to improve and need to be better in line. And this is something that we have seen very interesting in the recent times.
Absolutely. I think that's a good approach. That's a because see, it's only when after 40 people become more concerned, and also for all the reasons that you said. And one more I would add to that is because then you realize that your health can impact your family as well. So by then you have
Right.
greater responsibility, and you become just more tuned to that. Whereas in your late 20s, early 30s, you may not be thinking about your family, but in your
Correct.
40s, you are thinking about that as well.
True, true. We are almost near the end of the time, but there are a couple of more questions that I think we can answer. Uh, we have Rohit who is asking, what are things to keep in mind while managing employees in current pandemic and work from home scenario?
See, things to keep in mind. I think we have to make an effort to connect with them, which is more than what we did normally, right? Because normally, HR person will go to. I'm assuming that Rohit is an HR person, and therefore is asking that question. So when you would have met employees physically. When you go to the employees, you just walk on the floor, you say hello to them, you would have met them. Now, because you are working remotely, you have to make an effort. You have to either schedule a call, or you just have to pick up the phone, dial a few people. And sometimes we tend to kind of stick to the comfort zone. We talk to the
Right,
3 4 people who we are friendly with, or who will respond well, etc., right? But we have to make a bigger effort. We have to reach out to the people who are strangers, who we normally would not have talked, or who are different from us, etc. Well, otherwise, then you are not really connecting with them. So first thing is you have to make an effort. You have to be very empathetic. It's not a normal conversation, right? It's like when you meet the person and then you crack a joke, or you immediately connect with them. But here, why you are calling, what questions you want to ask. Do you want to ask about the family? Do you want to ask, are they stressed? So inevitably, your questions have to become more personal, more caring in nature. You cannot do
right,
just shop talk. You cannot just stick to, are you productive, are you delivering. You have to move away from the work scenario. You have to become truly caring. And that again takes requires thoughtfulness, that what questions
right,
will ask, how will you make that connection with people. That also, employee might think like you are an HR person and it's your job to call me today, right? So they may not open up. They may just say, no, everything is fine. And then within 2 minutes, you will keep the call there. Okay, check mark, I did a connect. But
Right.
how do you really establish that connection on the phone? How do you establish the trust? So the trust, the empathy become very important, and they are real things. They are not just hype. They are not just being talked about. It's a skill that one has to learn and practice, and one has to
Correct.
become better at. So I think we have to make an effort. We have to be empathetic. We have to be trusting. We have to know that these are skills that we have to learn. And we have to, then again, it's not a one time effort, as you said.
Yeah.
You have to have a program where, suppose I'm your HR, I need to reach out to you once in 15 days, right? At least once in a month. Otherwise you will think like, okay, at the start of pandemic he called me, but last 4 months nothing, I didn't hear from him, right? So
Yeah.
then it's lost, out of sight, out of mind
Correct.
kind of. So you need a program which has regularity. It needs to have a regular connect.
Great, great. So, Sharad, we have just a couple of minutes more left on the clock
Sure.
as well. Audience, if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ping in the chat. And great. So, Sharad, just summarizing the entire conversation, if you would like the audience to have 2 or 3 key takeaways from the conversation that we had today, what would be those points?
I think the first point is obviously that we are we have to redefine the way we look at employee health, from a reactive and more of a curative approach to a more of a preventive, more of a a proactive and a holistic approach. I think that's one. So which means it's not just medicines, it's not just an emergency situation,
Correct.
but it's more of health coach. You need a health coach kind of an approach. You need Then the second thing is, because of the pandemic, you have to be caring remotely. So like the telemedicine program, or doctor on call 24 by 7,
Right.
caring for people while they are quarantined or they are in self isolation. So somebody calls you. So I think that depression and mental health are real things. When you are self
Mm-hmm.
isolated, you may not be motivated to tell people that you have a problem. If somebody calls you, then you may, and you consider them as a friend, then you may open up, right? And then the
Right.
last point is, obviously, the situation requires that we are more empathetic, we are more trusting, we are more caring as individuals and as a society and as a company, right? So at every level, we have to know that this is what the new world is, and we have to be like that. So I think these are the main points as far as what I could
Perfect.
see. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Couldn't have summarized it better. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharath, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to host you on the webinar. And yeah, audience, please feel free to comment anything more on the conversation in the video, on the video on YouTube as well. We will be we will be having an eye on them and replying to you personally if you have any other questions, or you could even email to us at help@ekincare.com, and we'll respond to you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharath. It was a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you. Thanks, Trilok. Enjoyed this, and thank you everyone for the good questions and the interactions. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye bye. See you. Stay safe.